Givaldik. So today is Chulin Ayin Hey, and today is the end of the sugya of Ben Pekua. Till the end is the sugya of Ben Pekua. We're going to go ikar a whole bunch of different sveikis that the Gemara has and machloikis in Legabi Ben Pekua. Then we're going to go through Reb Shimon Shazuri and Halacha L'Maisa what we have to do. Maybe if we have time, we'll talk about a Givaldik Kasha from the Pri Chadash, a stira in the Rishonim. If you need a bracha for Mar Zayin. Gavaldige Shaila, what do you do? Umaisa. Yeah, later Rabbanan that you have to do later Rabbanan the Chachamim. That you have to shecht. So you have to shecht so to Rashba with a bracha. Mimnei Marasayin. How does it stem with the Ram that you don't make Marasayin by Chanukah? Gavaldige Kasha place. We don't make a bracha when you're lighting in two places. Mimnei Marasayin. That's the Pri Chodesh's Kasha. There's a placey, there's a lot of Torah. Maybe we'll get to it, hopefully. It's not Jarbonon is Jarbonon. Jarbonon came to Raisa thinking over here something else. Over here we're going to see klar that it's a name Aris Ayin. And not only that, we're going to see that there are certain exceptions to the rule because it's only name Aris Ayin. In other words, it's not a regular Jarbonon. They didn't say that it's Mechuyev Shchita Midrabanan. They said that in the Maras Ayin you should be shecht, and we'll see. It's Machlek Zoshonim. We'll see. We're going to see Bez Hashem. We're going to see Bez Hashem that it's a Machlekes Zoshonim in Das Kufa. There is a Machlekes if Bechlal. What do you do with a Sak and Paguma? It's a Machlekes Rosh and the Rashba. But even in the Rashba, that holds that you don't need a kosher or shchita, but he still says you make a bracha in the Maras Ayin. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Bez Hashem. We'll see. Zokt the Heilige Gemara. Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Zokt the Gemara. So we're starting Bez Hashem. We're starting Ayin Daled Amid Beis. Amar Rab Shimon ben Lakish. Machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish in this shita. Yeah. Amar Rab Shimon ben Lakish. Ledivrei hamatir bechelboy matir bedamoy. Who's a matir bechelboy? That's Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda holds that Ben Pekua is a free for all, and he's matir bechelboy, matir everything. So he's limit ledivrei hamatir bechelboy matir bedamoy. He's matir bedamoy as well. We know when the Mishnah says kairoi, you have to rip it and let the blood run out. And Rashi explained because Avad it's like not worse than damatamtis. This is going to be that sugya. But Rabbi Rish Lakish has a psahalacha of the divrei amatir bedamai, and the Gemara is going to explain what shitas Rish Lakish is. Yeah, but that's not not everything else is understood. Rish Lakish is saying a chiddush that the divrei amatir bechelbei matir bedamai, the divrei oisu bechelbei oisu bedamai. That's pashut that we know, obviously, because dama is always us. Rabbi Yochanan after divrei amatir. What? Oh, we'll see. Rabbi Yochanan, after the Amata bechal by Yosef bedamai. Eis ve Rabbi Yochanan l'Rosh Lakish. Our Mishnah. Karei might say as the Amai. It says mafurish, and we're going in the case where it's mutter, and it says what? Karei might say as the Amai. Rab Zera loy mashay noyinish kares. That what? Rish Lakish was not saying that it's mutter bedamai. We mean that it's not einish kares. It's only belav. Frekti Gemara leman kami. Who are we going with? Now, what we'll see in a second, it's a machlokes tanoim legabi dama tamtzis, meaning dama nefesh, the pasuk that you were quoting, dama nefesh avada yoiva, you get kares if you eat dama nefesh. How about dam hatamtzis, meaning blood that came from any other place, not the blood that rushed out b'shas shchita, right? Dam hatamtzis, so it's a machlokes tanoim. It's a machlokes tanoim, and Rabbi Yehuda happens to be the one. He's the one that he's the one that we're discussing in our sugi. He's the bar plukta of Rav Meir, and he holds that even damatamsis is bekaris. So Mamela frek the Gemara. What's going on over here? What's shot in Rabbi Yehuda? That Rabbi Yehuda is over here. What's shot in Rish Lakish that he's saying that like Rabbi Yehuda the dam hatamsis or the dam hashalil will not be also. So yeah. There's no Maras Ayin. There's no Maras Ayin in Rabbi Yehuda. Maras Ayin is all. We're not talking about Maras Ayin over here. We're talking about regular Isser. We're talking about Isser Dam, but there's no Isser Chelev. L'man Kamri, Rabbi Yehuda lo yehei dam hatamsis l'tanya dam hatamsis baz hora. That's the Tanakamos. Rabbi Yehuda bihi kares. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you get kares by dam hatamsis as well. So l'chura, why would Rabbi Yehuda say that dam hashol is worse? Tergema Rav Yosef Brei Rav Salah Chasida. Rav Salah Chasida his son Rabbi Yosef explained, Kamei de Rav Papa, Islay de Rabbi Yehuda, Dam v'chol dam. The whole source for Rabbi Yehuda that he holds that Dam Atamsis is also chayiv is because it says Dam and it says V'chol Dam. V'chol Dam is Marba Dam Atamsis as well. But since the Makar for Dam Atamsis comes from V'chol Dam, so therefore there's a Hekesh Dam to Kol Dam. Kol Echad the Mechayiv Adam HaNefesh Mechayiv Adam Atamsis. V'chol Echad le Mechayiv Adam HaNefesh le Mechayiv Adam Atamsis. So that's the Chiddush. That what? So Seif Kol Seif, that's Rav Shlokish's Chiddush. That what? The Divrei HaMata B'chel B'Mata B'Damei. In other words, that Loi to Rabbi Yehuda, that it's going to be, there's not going to be any dam hatam, there's not going to be any dam hanefesh, therefore there won't be dam hatamsis. Not obviously you're obviously not allowed to eat it, but it's no karis, only a lav. Now here's where it gets the really exotic questions of Ben Pekua. This is where the Gemara acts like this is where the Gemara asks all the lam the shashaylis that everybody likes. This nafkamina will be Ben Pekua. This is where the Gemara is acting very heintig. Yibayilu ma'u lifteis Ben Pekua. What's the story? Could you go and be paida a petach hamar with a ben pekua? Now the halacha is like this. The halacha opinion petach hamar is that you could do one of two ways. You could either be paida it b'shavyoy with its worth, and if you do it with its worth, it has to be exactly how much it's worth, and that could be anything. It doesn't matter what it's from, what you're using to be paida with it. It could be cash, it could be anything. But if you want to be paida b'less b'shavyoy, then you have to dafka use a seh. It has to be called a seh. If you take a seh, then it doesn't matter what its worth is. You just pay a seh versus a pedich hamar. Will you ever buy a pedich hamar? Pidyon pedich hamar?
It's not the firstborn, right?
Can I use a ben pekua? And we're going to see. I just want to make a small, tiny hakdama. That we're going to see that all the shmuzin and all the machlokes and all the sveikis in our suffix is how separated do we see the child from the mother, and how much connected do we see? Do we see the child as one part and parcel of the mother, or do we see it together? That's going to be all the sveikis be'erach. Okay, and that kind of along those lines. Ma'u liftais beben pekua. What's the story? Could I be paida a petach hamar with a ben pekua? So to more like this. Late Rabbi Yehuda, late Rameya. Seh ma'al Yehu. And Rashi told us in the Mishnah, the reason is because he says that chadashim garmulay, which means that since it had the necessary months, a full term, what's called it? It doesn't have to be yatzal avra oilam. It's already a full behema. It's complete, and there's nothing missing from this animal. We're not saying a bachar. It's not saying a bachar. We just want to know if I want to use this seh as a barter for the chamar. Someone had a chamar. Somebody. There's a farmer has a chamar that gave birth to a firstborn, and he has to give that chamar to the kohen, and then he gives it to the kohen, and then he takes a seh from his own a seh, and he barters it. He gives it. He's paid the chamar back from the kohen. That's the halacha opinion paid the chamar. So now, if he wants to use a seh to be paid back as chamar, it has to be a seh. If it's not a seh, if we're not recognizing this seh as a fully formed seh, it's not an animal. We're looking at it as something else. We'll see in the Gemara. Then I can't use it as a seh. If I'm not using it as a seh, okay, so now it has to go b'shavya. Then we have to check the worth, make sure it's worth as much as a chamar. Yeah. Yeah, how are the Chacham going to look at this? Do we look at it as just like meat in a basket? In other words, this is not It's not. We don't look at it as its own entity. We look at it as a bisur b'dikula. Aydilma given the right for azul, for right for asi sekarin way. Lamaisa says if it's running, it's jumping around like a seh. It quacks like it runs like a seh. It jumps like a seh. It's a seh. Yeah, that's the suffix of Gemara. Mazutra. It's tomorrow. It's a machlekes. Mazutra. I ain't pointing Rav Ashi. I'm pointing. Ayama le Rav Ashi le Mazutra. My daitach. The Gamarta mipsachim. Yeah, what's your problem? The Gemara explained that the machlekes Marzutra and Rav Ashi is if we look at this kibisur b'dikula, or do we look at it as a sem ma'alya? Yeah, what's the suffix? The question is, on one hand, we have two things about this set. On one hand. On one hand, the halacha of this is that I'm allowed to just bite into it. I'm allowed to eat from it. So it seems like it's ready-made meat, right? On the other hand, this is something else. It's jumping around. So memela, from the fact that it's jumping around, looks like it's a seh. So what do we call this thing? Do we call it a seh, or do we call it kol cuts? That's the Gemara's. That seems to be the Gemara. That's what the Gemara explains. Then there's going to be a shakavatariya, and the shakavatariya of Rav Ashi to Mazotra is going to be mashma that the conversation has nothing to do with Bisur B'Dikula. It has something completely different. The question is, if we learn up from what we learn up from Karban Pesach. V'tzarachin, what happened to the Gemara's Hezbollah. So Rav Aryeh explains that Rav Ashi argues with the way the Gemara understood until now. The Gemara explained that the reason is machlekes bisur b'dikula or roit v'asi, and Rav Ashi was not maskim to have a tzad b'chlal that it's bisur b'dikula. There's no such a tzad that it's kol cuts because it's roit v'asi and roit v'azul. So al kolchach it must be a limud. Yeah, but Rashi. The problem is that Rashi in the end brings down the svar of kibisur b'dikula. So Rashi is not mashma that the Gemara was chaylik. So that's the shmuz, exactly what's going on in this Gemara. For the rest, we're going to have to figure it out later. So the Gemara weiter. What's your reasoning? Your reasoning is not as how the Levari learns. Not because you hold that this thing is really not. It's cold cuts. It's not a seh. Of course, it's a seh, right? The teretz is what it must be because you're learning up exer shava seh psachim. That by psachim the halacha is that a yotzei doifin, something that didn't have a normal vaginal birth, is not kosher for Karban Pesach. So and you're learning out that by seh by there's also a halacha of a seh psachim. So memela what? And that's why you're saying that just like a yotzei doifin is not good there, it's not good over here as well. This is a regular yotzei doifin. Every ben pekua is by definition a yotzei doifin as well. So he asked him, Rav Ashi asked him, all in his reasoning that he's understanding that the shmuz is if it's a that the shaylos that you being medamit to Karban Pesach imala alon zocher tamu ben shana avkan zocher tamu ben shana. He says if we're learning seh that we're learning up new requirements from Karban Pesach, so I have a whole nother list of requirements that I have to learn up for Karban Pesach. Yeah, frek the Gemara Akasha. That what frek the Gemara? If we're learning out for Karban Pesach, so there's a whole criteria. Then I need zachar. I need it should be dafka. That you pay the Gemara. It has to be dafka male, and it has to be dafka less than a year old, and it has to be and a tamim. It has to be no mum. And obviously for pidi pet Gemara, we don't have any of these halachas. Avkan zachar tamim ben shana. So he answered him, tifta riba. It says tifta twice, so it's marba that I don't learn up from Karban Pesach all these things. Eat tifta riba. Afilu kol milei nami. So maybe we should be marba even a ben pekua as well. Imkain says maya hani loch. So mamela what? Imkain says maya hani loch. That what? So Rashi explains. So which one are we mamayit and which one are we marba? Umistarba the high mamayit the kibisur b'dikulo. V'chi marbi ba'mom unikeva kan marbi. In other words, like this. That what we have a ribli and a miyat, and we have to decide which one to be marba, which one to be mamayit. So what we're going to do is we're going to be marba the svara we're going to be marba the miyat of yotzei doifen and say that it's also because it's kibisa b'dikula. In other words, that the svara of kibisa b'dikula is not a standalone shita. It's not a standalone svara. That's how Lev Ari learns in the sugya. It's not a standalone halacha. It's a svara that's used, built on the svara of why we should learn out this halacha and not that halacha. Why should I learn this halacha and not that? That we use the svara of kibbutz b'dikula, which says that avazoi vayit, at least somewhat, it's a little bit less of a seh. Zakti mar vayta. What's the halacha if, let's say, the mother became tamei, right? If the mother became tamei, obviously, if the mother became tamei, we're talking about that the mother was already geshachten, right? They're obviously geshachten because if the mother wasn't geshachten, then obviously. If the mother was not geshachten, then the mother doesn't become tamei, right? Because a Baal Chai does not become tamei. We'll see what happens with a Ben Pekur. That's where all the lumdus comes from. But the mother clearly won't become tamei until it's geshachten, right? But what?
If Ben Pekur is a bishra, why can't it come tamei?
So we'll see. So avada the ben pekur that's mace for sure becomes tummy, and that's what we're talking about. Not necessarily alive. We're talking about both the yeshechted the mother, and there's a child inside the mother, and they're both let's say dead now. But somebody that was tamei touched the mother. So now the question is, how do we look at the mother versus the child? Do we look at them as two different entities, and the mother became tamei and it is mitame the child, but the mother will be a rishon and the child will be a sheni? Or do we say that it's all one entity and they both became a rishon? Because it's two separate entities. Nase ke'egois hamikaskesh b'klipasoi. Even just like a nut, a walnut, they say, that shakes around in its shell, and even though it shakes around in its shell, we still look at it as one entity. And it is, and you touch the egg, you touch the shell, the whole nut gets the same tumah. You don't go another generation. You don't go down from a rishon to a sheni. Same too. Zakir shlakish that why ain't by rishon the sheni. So he asked the kasha from our Mishnah that we said before. We had our Mishnah. We had a machlokes Rameh and the Chachamim. What happened if there was a Eivra Yotzei? And the Eivra Yotzei, what happened? It stayed out to B'shas Shchita. So Rameh holds that it remains a nevela. So frek the Gemara, and what's the halacha? That it makes the whole rest of the animal tamei, right? So the question is habasa maga nevela and divrei Rameh maga treifa shchuta. Okay, but that's not negeya. The machlokes, if it's a maga nevela, maga treifa shchuta is not what's negeya for our kasha. Bishlam didamin echad gufahu hainu dis kasha b'dama diima. So I understand how it was hochsha, right? We're saying that as soon as it shechts, boom, that's it. It became tamei. The question is, how did it become tamei? You always need something to be hochsha lekabel tumah. Zakrish lakish like me that it's all one entity. It's very gishmak. Why? Because the mother was geshachten, and this is a very important halacha, which I like to call the Sufganiyam halacha, which is that we think that for heksher you need that the whole thing should become wet. You don't need the whole thing to become wet. If it got wet in any area, the whole thing is hochshel kabel toma. Like by a Sufganiyam, if somebody has a donut and it got a little wetness, it's already the whole thing is hochshel kabel toma. Yeah. So same thing is over here by a shchita of a animal, the shchita of the mother that was gishachten. So the little blood came out and it was machshir the mother, the whole mother. So zakrush lakish, since it's chad gufa, I hold it's chad gufa. So the mother became hochshel kabel tuma and she's makabel tuma, and so was the child. So they're both hochshel kabel tuma, and that's why it became magen nevela. Elitcham b'mayis kasha b'loit. You argues Rish Lakish. What did the child become? What do you mean it's magen nevela? It's not hochshel kabel tuma. It never touched any blood. It never became. It never was hochshel kabel tuma. Amalei b'shchita. You know how it's Hokshel Kabel Toma? B'shchita. Because, okay, Rab Shimon. Because there is a Shita Rab Shimon that holds that Shchita itself makes is machshel lekabel toma, and since the shchita over here is working on the child to be materit, so therefore it's hokshel lekabel toma, right? So what do we see from this Rashi? What do we see from this Gemara? L'chura over here, from here already, we see a gevaldiges pashtus. We see that it's out to the grace of Hakira, right? The grace of Hakira is if we see a shchita happening in the child, or do we? It's just hota because kolba v'hema. L'chura, the Gemara says that it's hochsha the kabel toma aliva derab Shimon because the shchita happened. What do you mean the shchita happened? The shchita didn't happen in the child. The child is only hota al kolba v'hema. It's mashma that what? That it's because the shchita happened. Right. So the Gemara right. And now Eiser Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Now Rabbi Yochanan asked Rish Lakish the other way. From a brisa. The brisa is like this. Ava benar. Who are we talking about? We're talking about this animal. We're going to see an animal that was a ben pekua. It was Yatza ben Teschai, and it's alive and kicking, and he's part of a cherishba. Yeah, everything's good. But if he ever passes it through a river, now it's hochsher. It becomes hochsher lekabato even though it's alive, and halach lebeis hakvaros nitma. It becomes tama even though it's alive. That's why it's hochsher. Why? Yeah. That's why I needed that it should go into the water. But until it went into the water, it was not hoksha. But like you, that you say that this child is one entity together with the mother, so it was already hoksha before it went into the Abba Benar. It's hoksha as soon as the mother was geshachtin, it was already hoksha, right? That's the Gemara's kasha. So kasha b'dama de ima, and for the Gemara, Rish Lakish is going to have to say that Bryce is talking about B'shchita Yaveshta Udalai Rab Shimon. We're going to have to be saying that this Ben Pekua that is walking now of Abanar is talking about the mother who was Geshachtin and no blood came out. And not only that, we hold not like Rab Shimon that holds B'shchita Yaveshta Rab Shimon. So Rish Lakish is going to have to say, like Rish Lakish, that what? That Rish Lakish is arguing that it's Chad Gufa, it's one entity. So like him, we have to say that we're talking about why did it have to wait until this thing went into the water? It must be that the mother was Geshachtin and no blood came out. And we don't hold like Reb Shimon that holds that Shchita is Machsheres. Zok the Gemara. Now the Gemara is going to say, and I'm going to be masber together with Rashi, a very geshmak of art. Okay. Now this brisa, I'm just going to be masber inside without a kasha and a teretz. Right. This brisa is ava beno hoksha halchu beis hakvaros nitma. Right. We could explain it in two ways. That it has its halacha. We're going to see, Be'ez Hashem, that there's going to be a machlokes legabi an alive animal, yeah? Legabi an alive animal, if it's Makabel Toma or not. It's going to be a machlokes Tanoim. Now, what is that machlokes Tanoim Tolian? Yeah? What's that machlokes Tanoim Tolian? You could have said that the machlokes Tanoim is Tolian if you hold like a Meir Reb Yehuda. The light Reb Yehuda that holds that, right, the Chacham of our Mishnah that holds that it's already kibisa b'dikula, meaning that it's already geshachtin, so it's like meat and b'meil it's makabel toma. But light Reb Meir that holds that it needs shchita, therefore it needs shchita. It's an alive animal. It's not makabel toma. That's what we could have said. But Rabbi Yochanan is not happy with that. And Rabbi Yochanan wants to say that there's a machlokes in the Chachamim Gufa, and the Chachamim that hold that it's Geshachtin and it's Hota B'Shchitas Imai. Still, we can have a suffix if this is called alive or it's called dead. Yeah, Saktu Mantana, Abba Benar Hukla Halkabesa Kvaras Nitma, Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Yeshua Glili. Don't think that this is Lukuli Alma, everybody that holds like Rabbi Yehuda that holds that it's Huta B'Shchita Simai. No, this is Dafka Rabbi Yeshua Glili. They tell you Rabbi Shimon Elazai, Rabbi Yeshua Glili, Metametum Asoichlin, Vitzarech Hechsha. That what? That this child in its mother's womb, and that was born in its mother's womb, even though it's alive today, it's metamatum oichlin because it's like oichel, and it's not hoksha b'shchitas imoy. V'chachamim oimim ene metamatum oichlin neishu chai. But chachamim argue, and they say that it's not metamatum oichlin neishu chai. Now the shaila is there's a lot of lumdus about this. What's this neshu chai? Because kipshutoi we could have said that the reason why a chai is not mitama normal, is not makabel toma, is only because it's not right. It's not achila. It's not oichel. Right, but l'chura the chacham over here that hold that it's muta lechol. So when they say neshu chai, are they saying that the pshat is they're saying that it's because it's chai and therefore it's not an achila, or they're saying that chai somehow is shoylol, somehow something is chai, it can't be makabel tuma, not because it's not oichel, because stam chai is somehow a stira to tuma. That's a big shayla that the achronim clear. That there Rabbi Yochanan that says this chiddush that there's a machlokes in Rabbi Yehuda Gufa, but Rabbi Yehuda Gufa that holds that it's mitama tumas, that it's hotam b'shchita seimai. There's a suffix if it's makabel tomo or not, and the machlokes Rabbi Yossi Aglili and the chacham is in Rabbi Yehuda Gufa as Rabbi Yochanan tamei. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Beishamai amru davar echad. Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Beishamai amru davar echad. Rabbi Yossi Aglili had amaran that he said that this ben pekua, even though it's alive and kicking, it's still going to be makabel tomo, and it's right, and it's not hotam b'shchita seimai. And Beishamai did not. Dog him man is like makabel toma. From what time? When? What's the point where dogim are makabel toma? Beishamai mishe yetzudu. From when they are trapped. Now, what does it mean mishe yetzudu? Mishe yetzudu. What does it mean mishe yetzudu? So there's a famous Tveres Yisrael that everybody talks about. The Tveres Yisrael says that obviously mishe yetzudu means that they're in a trap and they're out of the water. And the smach to that is Rashi, because Rashi says the kivan the eintun and shchita harei hen kemesim. Zok the Tveres Yisrael that if somebody has fish in a fish tank, he's just because they're nitzoid, they're not kemesim, right? So why is it kemesim? It's mashma very stark. Zok the Tveres Yisrael that obviously that Mashiach Tzudu is that it's out of water. But the Achronim ask on the Tveres Yisrael from this Gemara, because the Gemara is telling to dogim to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, right? And we're saying there Beishamai holds Mashiach Tzudu, and Rabbi Yossi Aglili is saying it by where? By Ben Pekua. Ben Pekua is alive. It's not dead. It's not kemesim. So what does it mean? Kemesim. So I would say as long as it's in the net, it's fine. As long as it's still in the net, that's already harein kemesim. If it's heading out and he's heading to take it out, that would be harein kemesim, and it doesn't have to be out of the water. Let's go weiter. Beisil will say, no, it has to be dead. It's at a point where it's a middle stage. It's not alive. It's not dead. It's in the middle. It's starting to dry up. It's a dog that's still flapping around, but it's dried up between its fins. And therefore, it will definitely die. Let's move on. By Rav Chizda, no do bedagim simani treifa ma'u. Tibai ilmanda ma treifa chaya. V'tibai ilmanda ma treifa nechayam. Will Claire silent the mandama treifa chaya? Silent the mandama treifa eina chaya. If let's say that we have a fish and one of the fish had got a hole in its intestines, so it's a treifa. There is no hilchas treifa by dogim, but Ava Bikain, we're clearing legabe in such a case what it'll be if it's going to be makabel toma. Yeah. That's the suffix ha Gemara. Now, what? She learns that the suffix ha Gemara over here, no, there was some money treif is not like Rabbi Beis Hillel, because Beis Hillel says it has to have been dead, right? What? So the only suffix is only in Rabbi Kiva. In Rabbi Kiva that holds that when it's soifei lamos, it's soifei lamos. It's gonna be it's mikabel toma. So cleared the Gemara. What it'll be is treifa like soifei lamos. That's how Rashi learns. However, the Gemara bleibs teku, and the Rambam paskins like Beis Hillel legabe kabbalos legabe that it has to be mishiamusu, not like Rabbi Kiva that says that it's the mishasha ein yicholin lachyos, but he still paskins this the Gemara suffix of treifa. So and the rest that obviously the Rambam holds that the Gemara suffix is in Beis Hillel as well. And now we have to see the Gemara's suffix much more. What? Not like Rashi. So and it's much schwerer. Now, like the Rambam, it's much better to understand because like Rashi, it's very gishmak. The whole thing is about soifa. That's what a treifa is. But what would be the svara like the Rambam that somehow if you need death, so how does treifa help? Let's see the Gemara inside. Right, and you don't have treifas. So how could it be worse? How could it be worse than Rabbi Kiva soifa lamos? My b'nei Rabbi Yochanan dag mekartik b'nei boy Rav Chisda. No, to be dagim some money treifa out. Tiboy l'mando ma treifa chaya. Tiboy l'mando ma treifa chaya. Tiboy l'mando ma treifa chaya. Even like l'mando holds that treifa, it will ultimately live. Behema hoden nefishi chiosa. Behema that still it has such a strong insistence and resilience to live that their treifa will still be chaya. But afa became even though it got a mortal wound. It won't survive. And therefore it's Sefer Lamas. That's how Rashi learns, very gishmak. Even though the Madam that holds that a treifa will die, Rashi's goes. That's how Rashi learns the sugya. So in Shitas Rashi, that the Gemara suffix is all in the suffix, even like the Manda'ama Treifa Einay Chaya. That it doesn't Treifa Einay Chaya. We would think that that's Dafka, but that halacha was that Treifa Einay Chaya was only said by Behemoth and not by Dagim. And by Dagim, it was never said such a halacha that Yesh B'mina that Treifa Einay Chaya. And no. So Rashi's goes Yesh Ein B'mina Treifa. Yeah. Yeah? Avdogim the aim b'min treifus. Yeah? Very gishmak. That is how Rashi learns. The Rambam is going to learn that somehow the Gemara is Rav Chisda is clearing and the Gemara bleibt teku. Even like the Manda'ama, even like Rabbi Yud, even like Beis Hillel that holds that it has to be dead, but it has to be dead. And now we're gonna have a suffix that maybe by dogim chiyusayu, maybe the pshat is that a treifa will not only be einay chai, but not only is it treifa einay chai, but it's somehow it's dead. So clear. What? We'll say that even like the Manda'ama Treifa Chaya, that's by a behemoth, but by a dogim, the Metzias is that it will die. It's Sefer Lamos. So now it's worse than a case of just drying up. Drying up, the pshat is nothing happened to this thing. But if it has a mortal wound and it itself is in a matzav that it itself is going to die, so because it has a treifa in itself, so it's worse than something that's just we happen to know, we happen to have asidus and we know that it's going to die. Like Beis Hillel, something that's flapping around and we happen to know it's going to die is not enough. We needed to have something happen to it already, right? But once it's a treifa, maybe treifa is enough. Okay, let's go weiter. So more weiter. We have so much to learn. It's unbelievable. Let's go weiter. So Gemara Hitila Nefel. Okay, now the Gemara has two stadim, and we're going to go through the Gemara. We're going to go through the Gemara which run through it quickly. There's really a big machlokes rishonim about this Gemara. Hitila nefel. Let's say hitila nefel, meaning that the animal did not. We're not talking about a case of our Mishnah where an animal was geshachten and something was found in its stomach. We're talking about an animal, a regular animal that gave birth to a stillborn, right? So what's the halacha with that animal? Legabi its chaylev. Rabbi Yochanan machel by kichelev behema. It's regular chaylev. Why not? That chaylev of this stillborn is kichelev chaya, meaning that it's not necessary. Why? Because he says avira garim. For something to become chaylev aser, you need the avira to garim. In other words, it's not enough that it's not enough for it had to have come out of the ground, come out of its mother's womb. Sorry, once it comes out of its mother's womb, so now it was noilad, and once it was noilad, it's already chaylev, and therefore, since it's already chaylev, I don't care that it came out dead. He holds that it doesn't have a chaylev because chadashim garambi. He holds you need both. You need first of all chadashim, and not only chadashim, you need that it should be yatz laver oilam. And this so this case it only has the aver oilam, but it doesn't have the chadashim. Or in the case where it was geshachten and it was found in the mother's stomach, so it had the chadashim. It was kol chadashav, but it wasn't yatz laver oilam. But either one, like Rish Lakish, it's not going to be a chaylev. Now Rashi in the Mishnah seems to be mazber amachik Rabbi Yehuda about the like the way Rashi is mazber over here. That's the shtel over here, and the Izer Rabbeinu Ephraim that there is a Rabbeinu Ephraim that says that the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is machlokes Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. That is a whole, but most Rishonim don't hold like that. Every time I don't care anything about it, and obviously it's not chaylev, it's nothing. What'll happen? This is a reverse case. The first case we had a case where it was yatzel avir, but it was what? It was loikol lechadashav. It was a nefel. So it was born, but it was not full term. Right? And we had a machlekes. Rabbi Yochanan said that either way, if you are noilad, that's enough. That confers on you chaylev status, right? Like Rabbi Yochanan. And Rish Lakish says, no, I need both. I need both chadashim and avir. That was the first case. Now we're going to have a reverse case where I have chadashim but I don't have avir. What's the case of chadashim and no avir? I'll have a case where somebody stuck his hand in and grabbed a piece of chaylev from something that had full chadashim but no avir because it wasn't noilad. It's inside the mother. That's the machlokes, right? So we have this machlokes, right? So Rabbi Yochanan machel by kichelev behema. Why? Because again, Rabbi Yochanan says that either chadashim or avir makes it chelev. Chel by kichelev behema, chadashim garmi. Machel by kichelev chaya. He says that it's going to blind chelev chaya because again, the same rule of Rish Lakish that I need chadashim v'avir garmi. I don't need both chadashim and avir, and this is missing the avir because it was not yet born. Let's move on. Go. This is the makar that Rashi brought for the issa for the heter of chaylev of a ben pekua. Rashi brought it this makar in the Mishnah. What's the pasuk? It says ma chaylev v'shtei kloyes amuris ba'asham. It says an extra pasuk of chaylev v'shtei kloyes by the pasuk of a asham, by carbon asham, and we say why does it say extra words? We say that we're learning up from asham that asham what asham is always a zacha. There's no such thing as an akeva, so it's impossible to have chaylev shalul. It's impossible to have a chaylev of a ben paku and an asham because the asham is always a zacha. Ma chaylev v'shtei kloyes amuris ba'asham moitzim mechlal shalul avkol. So too other karbanos as well. The chaylev does not go on the mizbech and it's not going to be awesome. Avkol moitzim mechlal shalul. Bishlam the zok Rabbi Yochanan hainu de itzrich kra lemute. It's very geshmak. Why it's itzrich kra lemute? Even though it's a shalul, even though it's inside, and it's lo yatzel avir oilam adayin. But since it's kol lechadashav, so it's already would have a din of chaylev, and that's why the pasuk has to be mamayit. But like you, Rish Lakish, that says that it doesn't have a Shem Chaylev until it has both Chadashim and Avir. Yitzrich, why do I need a pasuk b'chlal for? Pasuk, it's not Chaylev. Amalei, Sakrish Lakish, Tai b'didina mi be'acha. This is the source of my shita. How do I know that I need the chadashim and avira from this makar, from this pasuk, from the fact that the Gemara is from this drasha we learn out it's not stam or it's not stam gzeres hakasuv that chel shol is not nichlal in a asham. No, fakert, it's a. The pasuk is telling me that it doesn't have it in chaylev until what? Until it was called lechadash of the yotzal avra olam. The other version is the fakir Rishim and Lakish Asher B'Yechanan. And like this Gemara, this next Gemara seems to be like a time of the Kra. That's how most Achronim learn this Gemara. You want to know why the Torah excluded it? I'll tell you why. Because of my svara. Because it doesn't have a Shem Chaylev. Because it's missing one of the important components that confer it a Shem Chaylev, which is Yatzal Olam. Since it's only called Lechadashav and it's not Yatzal Olam, so Mamela doesn't have a Shem Chaylev. Let's bring it on the Mizbeach. Amalei Midi Dehavi Amchus Man. So in other words, Rav Shlakish asked him, what's the svara? What's the reason why the Torah was mamayit? Right? What's the reason? And Rav Shlakish and Rabbi Yechanan says, I'll find you another case. I'll find you another svara. Just like we find by Mechus Zman, there's nothing missing. It's not that there's something missing. None of us. It says the Torah said that Mechus Zman, you can't bring in a carbon on the Mizbeach until it waited those 7 days, even though it's all completely, fully intact. But after it became, the Torah says, it's called Mechus Zman, and I can't bring it on the Mizbeach. So too over here in Chalami, Shol is perfect. It has a Shem Chaylev, even though it's Lo Yatzal Avar Olam, but it's still going to be it's still going to have the what's called. It's still not good on the Mizbeach. Amar Avami, here comes the greatest sugya. Ha-shoiched es ha-treifa, u'matzuba ben teschai. What will happen if somebody shechts a treifa? Right? So, we found the sircha in the mother's lung. So the mother, I can't eat. But there was a live animal in the stomach. So now, what do I want to do? What's the story with that child? Now, what would you say? What would we all say?
Is it a separate entity or is it part of the mother?
But like there's step one. And this is the big problem. Here's the big problem, and the Gemara is really going to say it as a chiddush soon. After the Gemara said the Ravami, the Gemara is going to say it as a chiddush. But again, loit Rabbi Yehuda that holds that the shechita is matir on the child. So why shouldn't we say that the shechita is matir on the child? That the child is mutter. The child is not a treifa. So what do you want to say? Yeah. But still we find that the shechita of a treifa does not work, right? And that is going to be the shmuz of this Gemara, right? That a shechita of the treifa, even not only does it not work on the mother, it doesn't work on the child.
Maybe it's not a shechita.
Oh, this is the big one. Frak the Rajba, he said, Matbiya, what's wrong? I did a shechita, and good, the mother has a problem of treifas, but the child doesn't. So let the treifa work on, let the shechita work on the child. That is the problem. So there's the famous word for Reb Chaim, which needs a lot of hezbah, but there's a famous word for Reb Chaim. The Reb Chaim says that treifa, and the language of the Rashba is that it's a issa min atzad. Issa min atzad on the mother. The mother is a issa min atzad that it's a treifus. So let this be an issa min atzad. What does it have to do with the heter of the child? Right? The mother has a blemish. It has a problem that it's a treifus. The child doesn't. So let the mother will take care of her. We won't eat the mother because she's a treifus. But the child should be good. That is the kasha, right? The famous verse for Reb Chaim. The Reb Chaim says that the pshat is that treifus is not a chsar min tzad, it's a chsar in shchita. And male will be a chsar in shchita, that'll be a hezbollah for this child. That's the word. That alone needs a hezbollah. Yeah, you could say, I mean, soif kol soif. Shchita is Shchita is about, we said it's about taking life, and treifa is about somebody that's a life minus. So maybe Pshat is I'm missing in the Shchita, it needs a husband. Yeah, it definitely needs a husband. But Akapanim, that's the word from Chaim. Okay. But Akapanim, Zakravami, Hashoichet es behema. Let's get this Gemara clear. Hashoichet es a treifa motzba mentes chai. So Zakravami, it's going to be Tali. L'nevreya oiser, like Rameya that holds that the Shchita of the mother was never going to help the child. So this child's a regular child. The mother's a treifa, the child's a regular good is good to go. Matir, no problem. Shech the child. L'divrei matir, but like Rabbi Yehuda that holds that what, like the Chacham that holds that the Shchita in the mother is matir the child. So this child is already geschachten. If he's geschachten, there's nothing you can do with the child. The child is stuck without. There's no eitzah. You can't shecht this child because the child has no simonim because it's already geschachten. It's geschachten. It's a shchitas treifa, even though it's alive and kicking, but it's geschachten. That is what Rav Ami wanted to propose. That's what Rav Ami held. Yeah. Rav Amar l'tivei amater nami motor. L'kuli alma, this one's going to be motor. Why? Because Dalid simonim achshe beirachmana. So we'll just say it the way Rashi seems to be masber, like this. And this is the lumnus that you were saying. That the pshat is like this. The reason why shchita doesn't work on the child is. The reason why the mother's shchita doesn't work on the child is because the only way you could be matir the child is by hitching it to its mother, right? So in other words, if I hitch it up to the mother, the mother's shchita didn't work. The mother's a treifa, right? And it's ke'echa me'everel, and ke'echa me'everel is going to pass, right? So what's wrong with the child? What's wrong with the child is l'divrei hamatir oiser, because l'divrei hamatir I'm seeing the child as a chelik of the mother, and the mother's a treifa. Hareu kacha me'everel zezak Rashi. Vasak Rava. Dal simanim asur berachmana. That dal simanim asur berachmana, hitching it up to the mother is not 100%. The child is not certainly hitched up to the mother. The child has an option to be hitched to the mother. It's your prerogative to maybe hitch it up to the mother or not. And if you want, you could unhitch it. You could unconnect them, and you could look at this child. It's an option that the Torah gave you that to look at it as a chelik of the mother, but not that you have to look at it as a chelik of the mother. Right? That's the lashon hara. Arba simanim hetero the Rabbi Beirachmanim b'kol habehem techelu she'im rotza oichle b'shchita seimai aval im tzarachu b'shchita atzmai k'gay shal shechti. Yeah. So that's how Rashi seems to be masber the Gemara. In other words, that Rav Ami is timing that if it's mutter, that means that it's attached to the mother. If it's attached to the mother, it has no help. It's attached to the mother. It has no simonim. The simonim were already geschachten. The mother's dead, right? But Rav is saying no, it's not. Absolutely, not certainly attached. It's an option that you have, but you don't have to attach it to the mother. You don't have to see it as one entity. You could see it as two entities. Now here's the Gemara. Really, it goes backwards. Now the Gemara is going to say the same thing. Right? In other words, it's not hota b'shchita because chelik of the mother. V'chayiv Israel l'chaim v'akevam v'meis tor militame b'masam v'meis. That means if it dies, right? It's tar militame b'masa. Why? Very simple. Why is it tar militame b'masa? because the mother was a shchita streifa, and the halacha of a shchita streifa is that it's not a vela, it's streifa shchuta, right? So you'll have it to be tar milutami b'masa. It's not going to be it's not going to be a vela. It's going to be treifa shchuta. Amalei Rav. Now the Rav is the Rabbis. There's different girsais exactly who it is, and the cheshbon of the sugi before how's it stim. That's a whole cheshbon. But let's go weiter. Amalei Rav. Ton shchita keman kirameya. What are you saying that it's ton shchita? Yeah, at this point in the Gemara, he wasn't masking to the svara of Daled Simanim Achshabei Rachmana, and therefore he asked the question: Imeis, why are you saying that it's ton shchita? It must be because you hold that it's separated from the mother. Keman kirameya v'meis ton l'tami b'masa keman kirabana. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Is it a separate entity from the mother? Or it's not a separate entity from the mother. If it's a separate entity from the mother, and that's why you're allowing the shchita in the child, so then it should be if it dies, it should be an avela. So the Gemara utamei chad tani Reb Chia. Reb Chia really says the exact same language as we had before. Ton shchita keman kirameya v'meis tor l'tami b'masa kirabbanan. Again, is it one entity or two entities? Yeah. So the Gemara halekasha. For Reb Chia, I'm not asking a question. Why? Because I asked this question to you and you didn't answer it. Reb Chia, I didn't ask that question. Rav Chia, since I didn't ask it to Rav Chia himself, so Rav Chia we could be matcha that he means something else. Halekasha, Rav Chia im kvar matzai meis kama. When he says v'im meis tar milatami b'masa, could be talking about that he was matzah meis b'seich meyel. And that's why, and that L'kuliyama Ramea holds is one entity. Everybody holds is one entity. And it's all going on Ramea. Ela didcha kasha, like you, that I asked you this kasha, and you didn't answer it. So it must be, the pshat is, you don't mean im kvar mace. You mean mace now, so meaning that you're talking about the same animal that was Yatza ben Chai, so how could the shechita work, if the shechita is working, on it, so obviously it's a separate entity. If it's a separate entity, why? How did the shechita work? How did the shechita work on the Tumas Nevela? Nami lekasha Dalid Simanim Achshabei Rachmana. So here we have where the Dalid Simanim Achshabei Rachmana gets developed in the Shakavatayis Sugya. Kisol Reb Zera Ashkel Ravasi. So Rashi says that when Reb Zera came, Rav Asi found him. The Yosef v'kam alei lahash shmaitza. This shtickle amalei yashav v'chein Rabbi Yochanan. Azay is dal zman machshachmana, and so Rabbi Yochanan held like that as well. So he asked him, Rabbi Yochanan, it's mashma that Rish Lakish didn't agree. B'chlal the polygalei Rav Shimon ben Lakish. So he had two versions. He wasn't sure what Rish Lakish holds. He's a Misha Havashohi Levishasikle. Amari the Gazach Rashi says that the derech of Rish Lakish was that he would hear a shir from Rabbi Yochanan, even if he argued, he didn't argue right away. He waited for an hour. So since he waited for an hour and Reb Zera had already had to run, he was running to Eretz Yisrael, so he missed it. So he doesn't know what Rish Lakish ultimately did, if he ultimately agreed or didn't agree. V'kedami Mishta Havashasi v'shasikle. Rish Lakish happened to be drinking at that point, and therefore he wasn't talking, so he doesn't know what Rish Lakish is going to have held. Let's finish up the Gemara. Let's do the next Gemara, because tomorrow is Tzumas Hagim. It's a really shver Gemara. This Gemara should go really quick. Hainu Tanakama. That what? Rav Shimon Shazuri said that even if it's part of a chayrish, no problem. It's good. You could eat it, even if it's alive. So that's the Tanakama. Tanakama holds that a pepper is mutter. Hainu Tanakama, Amar Avkana, Hefris, Agabe Karka, Kubenayu. Machlokes is, Lagabe, if it touched on the ground, that the Chum hold that if it's Hefris, Agabe, Akarka, Lashon of Rashi is, that what? That Midrabanan, it is out Maris Ain. That way is Lashon of Rashi, Lashon of Rashi is Hifrza, the Tanakam Kim Shahalach Ton Shchita Midrabanan, the Asi Lechlufi Lecho Behema B'Lei Shchita. So let's go. Though this Gemara we did already. This Gemara we did the Divrei Oim B'Choshel Zera'av. Ben Pekua Ba Behema Mal Yisam. Havlad ain't like takana. Why? Because the father is what is a ben pakua, and the child is not a ben pakua, and the mother is not a ben pakua. So Rashi learns that one siman is considered geshachtin, one siman is considered not geshachtin. So what are you going to do? You're going to go shecht the second siman. The second siman, the first siman happened by the father, and the mother's siman, and the next siman is happening many generations later. That's a Murray the Geshehia. That's how Rashi learns. Tosfos is very, very, very bothered by Rashi's svaris, and Tosfos argues with every single step in Rashi. We don't have time. If you have a ben pakua that's colored, that means a ben pakua that's born with a deformity, it's mutter. My time, a kol milsa to be a mitka the kiri. Because everyone's going to talk, there was a deformity, it was born, and once they're going to talk about the deformity, they're going to talk about that it was a ben pakua. And Memela, people are going to remember, they're going to know it's a ben pakua, and therefore it is mutter, you don't need shchita. Ben kluta ben pakua. If a ben pakua that's a kluta gives birth to another kluta, then it will be the talk of town. Shemota. My time a trait to be mitchet chiri, and she only two oddities. When you have two a ben pakua, a kluta ben a kluta ben kalut ben kluta, that's where it would be odd enough that everyone will talk about it. Amaziri Amar Bchanina. This is the Gemara. Amaziri Amar Bchanina. Halach Reb Shimon Shazuri. That halach v'chein hayer Reb Shimon Shazuri mate b'bnoi u'ben b'noi atzoyv kol hadeires. For next generation, once you start such a farm, it goes on forever. No. Who moto b'noi asa? The animal, the ben pakua itself is motor, but b'nai is also. Adaba chavu the ben pakua the nafal duva. Ale, he had a ben pakua that a beer fell on it. Asl kamei Rav Ashi amale zil shachte. So he told him to go shecht it. Rav Ashi said, "Go shecht it." Why? Why? Because that's the Chacham. The Chacham hold that once it's already parasal gabi karka, so you have to, you need shchita. Even though we're not worried about treifos, right? It wasn't going to live. It was nitcher for pashtus, but still, it's not. But you have to shecht it. Amalei ha'amaziri amar Reb Chanina alach Reb Shimon Shazuri v'chein hayer Reb Shimon Shazuri matu b'bnoi ben b'noi atzev kol hadoros. Favi Rabbi Yochanan lei kam alu b'noi aval yuloi. Rabbi Yochanan argued about the ben b'noi. He said not atzev kol hadoros, but he was what? But he was masking to the ben pakua itself that it's mutter, that it doesn't need shchita. Yeah, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan divrei Reb Shimon Shazuri kama. He wasn't saying, Rabbi Yochanan was not being masking to the first member that he said again halacha Reb Shimon Shazuri v'chein Reb Shimon Shazuri mat b'nei b'nei tzeiv kol hadoros. And then the third. And Rabbi Yochanan was only being masking to the second point. That the second point you said that it's a seif kol hadoros. On that Rabbi Yochanan said only who v'loy b'noi. But on the thing that halacha Reb Shimon Shazuri, Rabbi Yochanan was not being masking. Frakti Gemara v'amar Reb Chanina Amar Ula Amar Reb Chanina halacha Reb Shimon Shazuri v'loy el kol makom sheshan Reb Shimon Shazuri mishaseinu halacha gemoi. So we should hold like Reb Shimon Shazuri because Pasha Reb Shimon Shazuri we passing like him in everything. Amalei Anoki Has really. I hold like a different. Remember that it's not true that we pass like Reb Shimon Shazuri in every single time he's mentioned in the Mishnah. We only pass like Reb Shimon Shazuri in two distinct cases. Only Ki Hasvi the Amar Reb Yonason halach Reb Shimon Shazuri b'Mesukin or b'Chumas Ma'aser Shal Demai. Mesukin now b'Shoyin Hayoyim Hayoyim b'Kol v'Amar Kisvu get li'ishti arei elu yichtavu v'yitnu. Somebody is about to be executed, so then he's clearly mevobel, and if he writes kisvu, he means tenu, and he just forgot to say it. Chazu lay mafar mafarish. They added even as somebody who's going out to a big trip. Vayetzu b'shiyara and somebody who's sick. That's one halacha. And chumas ma'aser shel demai did not. Chumas ma'aser shel demai shechazu l'mekayim Reb Shimon Shazuriyah af b'chol shel levaychol b'alpiv. The halacha is that chumas ma'aser shel demai. This would be a tremendous hefset. If somebody had Chumas Ma'aser Shel Demai, and that went back to its original place. So now you have a mixture of Chumas Ma'aser and the original Mesuk and food, and it's mixed up even 100 parts Chulin and 1 part Chumas Ma'aser, it's still going to be Nesar, and there's nothing you can do. It's Nesar. There's no Eitzah. It's Meduba because you right. So what's the Eitzah? So Reb Shimon Shazuri says that even though Bechol we never makel to ask the Amoritz, but over here we can ask the Amoritz and ask him if he was Masakin it, and if he says he was Masakin it, then we'll retroactively be Mat to the food. Now I just want to say real quickly this Gewaldiges Lam de Shashayla. Now, there's two things very, very quickly. There's a machlekes the Rosh and the Rashba, what we do by the shechita of Ben Pakua. The Rosh says that it has to be halacha, Maisa has to be a complete shechita, everything with all different halachas, that it can't be begimis, can't be have anything. The Rashba says, no, it just has to look like a shechita. Right? We don't need it to be perfect. Now, how the stems with all the dinim of Maris Ayin, Tzarchin. But that's the machlekes, the Rosh and the Rashba. Now, in the Rashba himself says that when you're shechting a ben pekua, you make a bracha. Fragt the Achronim, the Ran says that if somebody's lighting a second menorah on Chanukah, you don't make a bracha. Why? Because you make a Maris Ayin. So the question is, do we make a bracha on Maris Ayin? Do you not make a bracha on Maris Ayin? That is the Shaila. The old Achronim asked the stira in this stira in the Rishonim. They want to say maybe it's a machlokes, right? Oh. So the Placey famously says a few eitzes. One eitzes of the Placey is he says like this: it depends if it's connected to the first one or not. Over here, Ben Pekua, you're not shechting anything else. You're just shechting this animal. So therefore, obviously, you have to make a bracha even though it's Maris Ayin. Masha'en came by two menorahs over there. You already made a bracha on the first one, and the second one is going to work, and that bracha is going to work on the second one. So therefore, you don't have to make a bracha. That's the eitzah of the Placey for this stira in the Rishonim. That's his thing. The lashon of the Ran is that it's only out Maris Ayin, and therefore you don't have to make a bracha. That would be that. So a big doichik. There's another eitzah from the Placey. Placey has another eitzah which I don't remember offhand. I just want to say my teretz real quickly. I want to say like this. There's a moedige chilik. What is the Maris Ayin of by and you have this by a lot of other things, by mezuzah and what's called it also the same thing. This Maris Ayin. There's two Maris Ayins. What's the Maris Ayin by Ben Pekua? Is the Maris Ayin on the meat, or the Maris Ayin is b'shas shchita? Meat. Yeah. Once it's in by the butcher, the meat looks exactly the same. There's no difference. Why should it make a difference? It's all the same meat. It's only b'shas shchita. Masha'en came by Chanukah, we're not worried about being b'shas hadlakas neiros. If we worry about b'shas hadlakas neiros, the raya would see that he lit somewhere else, and there's no problem. The problem is someone's going to pass by your window and see that there's no menorah. So with the same, I'm saying the same chilik as the Placey, but with a whole different lumdis. Not that the pshat is because since I'm doing it at the same time as the hadlaka, so it's nischaf, it's attached to the first one. It's not mashma in the Ran that that's the word. The Ran is mashma that's stam maris saying you don't make a bracha. The teretz is like this. The chilik is that by menorah. What do I need because of maris saying? Not being the ma'isa hadlaka. I need that it should be hodlak. I need that it should be lit for the next half hour. So if the Ran, lighting that you're doing, that it should be lit, it's any Marasayin, you don't make a bracha for that. Mashenkin over here, we don't want it to be geshachten. We don't care about afterwards. Afterwards it all looks the same. The problem is, b'shas shchita, somebody might think they don't have to shecht. B'shas shchita. So b'shas shchita, I got it to look like a shchita, like everything else, and make a bracha as well. Okay.